there is an enzyme called angiotensinogen, and angiotensinogen is produced by the liver. So these things right here, inflammation, a release of insulin, estrogen, glucocorticoid, which is cortisol, or thyroid hormones, can trigger release of angiotensinogen from the liver. This is also available or secreted from the heart, the blood vessels, the kidneys, and your adipose tissues. So the more you have of these adipose tissues, the more angiotensinogen you're going to have. And then angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 1 through the help of renin. Okay, so renin comes from the kidneys. So what releases renin is typically a decrease in perfusion. So when there's a lack of, and perfusion is blood flow, right? Flow of oxygenated blood to the organs and to the tissues, that's perfusion. So when there's decreased perfusion, renin is released, and then angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 1. What decreases perfusion is either blood pressure that is too low or blood pressure that is way too high. So when the blood pressure is low, it's actually good for RAAS to be activated because that's our body's compensation so that we can increase the volume of blood. So in this case, this is a good thing. When it's bad is because of the diet, especially in the United States, the comorbidities, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, obesity, then RAAS is activated because of increased blood pressure. The blood pressure is too high. And so there's not enough blood that is flowing to the kidneys. So when it's ischemic, it releases renin. So when renin is released, like I said, angiotensin is converted to angiotensin 1. And then with the help of the angiotensin converting enzyme, angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2. Okay, and ACE it comes from two places. It comes from the lungs, and then it also comes from the kidneys. And then it goes into the vascular endothelium, which is your blood vessels. And then it helps convert angiotensin 1 to 2. So once it's converted to angiotensin 2, this is the problem. Because angiotensin 2, for one, is a potent vasoconstrictor. So it has direct effect on the arteries of the system, and it causes vasoconstriction. So therefore, the peripheral vascular resistance is increased, which is the resistance on the wall of the blood vessels. That increases, and that increases the blood pressure. So that's one of the things that it does. The other thing that it does is it stimulates the parts of the brain, one being the hypothalamus. So it stimulates the hypothalamus to increase the thirst sensation, and so the patient will increase the water intake. They're going to drink more. They're going to feel thirsty. And again, in the instance of a low blood pressure, the purpose is to increase the volume, right? And so all of this is going to do that regardless of the cost, to increase the blood volume. So it also triggers the posterior pituitary gland. And what it does is it releases ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone. And then that goes to the kidneys, and it tells the kidneys to increase the reabsorption of water. So again, increasing the blood volume. Okay, so when ADH is involved, remember that it's only water that it reabsorbs. It doesn't reabsorb any electrolytes. So the other thing that it does is it decreases the sensitivity of the baroreceptors. So baroreceptors are these receptors on your blood vessels and in the heart. And what they do is when, for example, there's so much blood and there's increased volume, then they control that so that the blood vessel wall can be more relaxed. Or if the flow of blood is very low, then it's going to control the baroreceptor is going to tell the brain so that the blood vessels can constrict. Okay, in this case, it's going to decrease that sensitivity so that the baroreceptor doesn't respond as well to the high blood pressure, and so the blood pressure doesn't go down. So that's in the brain. So it affects the arteries, it affects the brain, it also affects the kidneys. And what it does in the kidneys is it tells the kidneys to reabsorb the sodium. Okay, so once it reabsorbs the sodium, then the blood is going to be more concentrated because it's going to have a lot of sodium. And so now there's a shift that happens so that because the blood becomes initially thick, right? Increased osmolarity means the blood is more concentrated. So then because of homeostasis, it's going to pull the water from the cells to the blood vessels to increase the blood volume. And again, once the blood volume is increased, then the pressure is increased. And in the adrenal cortex, which is, it sits on top of the kidneys, what that does is it triggers aldosterone, which is a mineralocorticoid, to tell the kidneys to, again, do two things. It's going to reabsorb the sodium, and not just sodium, but water and chloride and magnesium, but it's going to excrete potassium. So keep in mind that whenever we're talking about aldosterone, and its effect on the kidneys, it's always going to have these two effects, okay? It's always going to be an increased absorption of sodium and water, but a decrease or excretion of potassium, okay? These two things always happen. So like I said, this is well and good if it's for a situation wherein there's low blood pressure. But if there's an increased blood pressure, then it just becomes this vicious cycle of increasing the blood pressure, right?